Welcome to the Holistic Success Show. I'm Elizabeth Lozano.
And I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Today we're going to have a special guest on talking about healthy ways to improve your life and that may even save your life.
We're also going to be watching a couple of clips from Dr. Puff. The first one is on searching for peace of mind, and the second one is about barriers to happiness.
And one of our questions that you sent in is about setting healthy boundaries.
And the second one is about how to have a happy, healthy, and successful marriage.
We hope you enjoy our show.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Probably one of the most common things that every viewer right now is looking for is basically what we might call peace of mind, happiness, just enjoying life to go well. And yet we pursue so many different things. And why don't they work? Let me just give some examples. Some of you out there, you may know people that say, hey, if I only had enough money, all would be well. And yet many of us, including myself, know people that have lots of money and all isn't well. So that doesn't seem to be the solution. Money doesn't seem to solve it. You may say, maybe it's relationship. If I had the right relationship, I had the perfect lover, all would be well. And yet, in the United States and around the world, most relationships end. So that doesn't seem to be the solution. It can help. It's part of it, but it's not the final answer. Maybe if I get that degree, maybe if I get that final BA. No one in my family's ever had a BA before. No one's ever had in my family a master's before. Maybe if I'm a doctor, all will be well. And yet we all know, I worked with a man once, I didn't know him real well, but I worked with him. He was a doctor. He'd been doing really well financially, and he ended up hanging himself. So that doesn't seem to be the solution. Let's see, what else might it be? Maybe if I had fame, maybe if everyone looked up to me and everyone thought I was wonderful, I would be happy and all would be well. And that doesn't seem to be the answer. So, we keep looking. And we look a lot of different places. And many of you, including myself, may go through our lives trying different things, saying, does this work? Or does that work? And yet, as I often, kind of talk about throughout the show, I have found examples of people who have been happy that don't have one of the things I've mentioned. They actually have peace within themselves without any of these things. So you kind of have to ask yourself, do the things that I'm pursuing right now, whether it's relationship, maybe it's money, maybe it's fame, maybe it's health, will these make me happy? And if the answer is in and of themselves, the answer is no, then you have to say, well, what then does work? And I think what works, at the bottom line is you have to say, I can be happy here now. Now that's a very difficult thing to do, but you don't need anything for that. If you can find peace and happiness in the here and now, no matter what's happening, you don't possess it, but you experience it, then what you'll find is no matter what's happening to you, if you don't have any of those things, there can be peace. There can be happiness. And I'll be talking more and more about that in episodes to come. I'm going to be doing a series on what really at the core makes people happy. But it's not the things that you often think it is. And again, the news and the media supports me on that. Tabloids are full of examples of very successful, very famous, very wealthy people that aren't happy. So if those things don't work, it's a lot about saying, well, that didn't work for them. Perhaps I'll pursue something else. And what this show is about being whole, so everything matters, and it's about looking within and saying, how can I proactively take care of myself? And whether everything externally seems to be going haywire, I can still be at peace and be happy right here, right now. So peace.
This week's first question comes to us from Christy H. from Miami, Florida. And she writes in, sometimes I have a hard time setting boundaries and speaking up with family and friends because I'm afraid of their reaction, or I know it's going to cause drama, yet I'm always left feeling frustrated. Can you give me some tips on setting boundaries with the people I love without hurting them?
Well, setting boundaries is a very important skill to learn in life overall, because if you don't set them, people walk all over you. That's where boundaries are there. If we don't have boundaries, people hurt us. So it's a very important skill to learn. And when you want to implement, particularly with your family or people that you love, they're going to be in your life, because if they're going to be in your life, they may sometimes cross over your boundary. And what you have to do, it's like setting a line setting a line out there. You say, please don't cross this boundary, or there will, in a sense, be consequences. So when they cross that boundary that you set, like they start yelling at you, or physically accosting you, or saying mean things, you have to draw a line. Mm-hmm. And there are many, many aspects of this, but the simplest, the easiest thing to do is just to walk away and to leave. Say, if I can, say, I love you very much, but right now you seem upset, I'm going to leave. And then you leave.
And this can be on the phone as well, I understand what you're saying, and you're upset and I'm upset, and I just need to get off the phone right now. And they might not like that, but you're being polite. You're not just hanging up on them, but you're saying, I can't talk to you right now, I'm sorry. And you hang up the phone. Doesn't mean you don't talk to them at a later date, because we don't encourage just cutting people off of your family. That's not really a healthy thing to do, or your friends, unless somebody's really been abusive and just continue to abuse you. But you set limits. It's very, very important to set limits with people, and it is okay to cut off the conversation and say, I have to go right now. And often in the work even that we do with couples, we suggest to them, say, I need to cool off right now. I'll be back in an hour. We can talk about this maybe tomorrow. We can talk about it another time. If it's a spouse, sometimes you shouldn't really leave the whole night. Come back and deal with it later. Because sometimes when people are really upset, they say things when they're in the middle of being angry. Sometimes they need to take a walk to deal with it. But setting boundaries is so important. It really is. And I know it's hard because you don't want to hurt the other person. But sometimes if we take on so much without setting that boundary, you might actually blow up and say something even more hurtful than if you would have walked away.
And I think in that same note, when you're setting boundaries, is to realize it's beneficial for them too. Because as Elizabeth just said, when they say something hurtful to you, they will later feel shame for that. So you're actually being loving towards them. Because think about it, when someone who's been mean to you, they often later say, I'm so sorry. And you're allowing them not to have to say that later, because you've set a boundary there. And it's also a very loving thing to do for yourself, because you're not letting people hurt you. If you let people hurt you, the message you're giving yourself is, I deserve this. And you don't. None of us do. And if you're the one crossing someone's boundary, ask yourself, I love them. I don't want to hurt them. So I'm going to stop. I think so often we just want to solve it. We want to finish it. And the best thing to do is, like Elizabeth said, you say, I need to leave now. And then you leave, but I will be back and we will try this again. So keep working on them because you love them, but also set the boundary at the same time.
Thank you for your question and good luck.
Thank you.
This week's guest is Dick Stevens. He has survived a heart transplant, multiple heart surgeries, colon cancer, a coma, and acute thrombosis. He's lived to tell the tale. He has written a book called Never Give Up, The 6 Secret Steps You Must Take to Protect Your Own Life. So welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experiences were and what led you to write this book?
Yes, about 30 years ago, I began to show signs of heart disease. And my father had died at 48 from a heart problem. And so I decided that I should prepare myself for what was going to be probably inevitable heart problems. So my wife and I went out and did as much research as we could. We looked on the internet, we asked questions, and we found a total lack of really meaningful information available to the layman, to the average person, so that they could prepare or better be on guard for what was coming. Mm-hmm. And